You see, there's something extraordinary that happens when you begin to truly wake up, when the illusion starts to dissolve, when the heavy seriousness of the game fades, and you suddenly glimpse the vast cosmic joke behind it all. Something inside you shifts forever. You stop taking yourself so seriously, and in doing so, you become, well, inconvenient. You become a small yet unstoppable disturbance in a world that still believes the dream is real. Those still asleep will not understand what's happening to you. They'll feel something off, something unsettling about your presence. It's not that you're trying to provoke them. Far from it. You're simply being. You're breathing, walking, existing with a quiet freedom. And that very freedom challenges something deep within others. It rattles the cages they didn't even realize they were trapped in. Have you noticed this? You enter a room calm, peaceful, harmless, and yet someone looks at you as if you've offended them. You haven't spoken a word. You haven't done a single thing wrong. And still, the air changes. Their posture stiffens. Their eyes narrow. You can feel it. Something in them reacts almost instinctively. Why does your peace bother them? Why does your refusal to play the social game make them so uncomfortable? Because when you awaken, when you see through the illusion of the separate self, when you stop identifying with the constant chatter of the ego, you become a mirror. And mirrors, as you know, are not always welcome. They reflect what people would rather not see. They reveal the masks, the insecurities, the subtle falseness that the ego works so hard to conceal. You are no longer living by the unspoken rules of the game, and that makes the ego in others deeply uneasy. It feels exposed, threatened, naked, and so it reacts, sometimes quietly, sometimes dramatically. Let's explore the 5 ways people's egos tend to respond to your awakening. Not so you can feel superior, that would just be your own ego sneaking back in through the side door, but so you can recognize what's happening and meet it with understanding instead of confusion. Because once you know the pattern, you no longer take it personally. You simply see the dance for what it is. 1. They will demand explanations. When you stop defending yourself, when you stop justifying every choice you make, people around you grow restless. They want reasons. They want explanations. They need something to grasp. The ego loves to analyze, to measure, to judge. It lives by comparison. And when you step outside that system, when you refuse to offer your life up for inspection, the ego feels robbed. It feels as though you've broken some invisible contract. You owe me an explanation, it says. Why did you change? Why are you different? What happened to the old you? But the truth is, you don't owe anyone an explanation for your peace. You don't need to justify your way of being. You don't need to seek permission to exist in alignment with your soul. When you were asleep, you probably spent so much energy trying to make others understand you, to prove that you were doing it right. But now you see the trap, the endless loop of seeking validation from those who haven't even validated themselves. So what happens? People accuse you of being arrogant, distant, cold. They'll say you think you're better than them. But what's really happening is this. You've stopped performing in their play. You've stopped auditioning for a role that no longer fits. And the beautiful thing is, you don't need to argue about it. You don't need to defend your refusal to defend yourself. You can simply smile, breathe, and move on, like water flowing around a rock. The rock can complain all it wants, but the water never argues. It simply keeps flowing. 2. They will test your peace. Once people notice that something about you has changed, they will test it. Not consciously, of course. It's the ego in them that does the testing. If you say, "I'm not bothered by that anymore," they'll immediately try to bother you with it. If you say, "I've found peace," they'll try to shake it. They'll poke, prod, and press all your old buttons just to see if you still react. Why? Because the ego cannot stand the idea that someone has escaped its control. It needs proof that you're still playing the same game, that you're still as reactive, as insecure, as entangled in the story as it is. If they can make you flinch, if they can trigger your old defenses, they get to say, "See, you haven't really changed." And that allows them to go back to sleep comfortably, pretending nothing new is possible. You'll see it happen everywhere, at work, at home, even with close friends. Someone will bring up a subject that used to upset you. A colleague might criticize you in front of others just to see if you still take the bait. A family member might remind you of an old wound. And here's the paradox. If you react, they feel validated. If you don't react, they feel even more disturbed because now the ego has nothing to grab onto. It's faced with something it can't understand. Peace without pretense. So what do? You let them test. You let them poke. Not because you're trying to prove anything, but because you genuinely no longer mind. You've seen through the dream. You know their testing is not about you. It's about their own fear, their own defense against transformation. 3, they will gossip and create stories about you. When you stop feeding the machinery of gossip, drama, and judgment, that machinery often turns and feeds on you. People will start whispering. They'll invent stories. She's changed. He's not the same. She's into some weird spiritual stuff now. He's lost touch with reality. Why does this happen? Because the ego must make sense of what it cannot understand. It needs a narrative to feel safe. When someone steps outside the shared illusion, the collective mind panics. It starts categorizing, labeling, and explaining away your transformation. If they can't put you in a familiar box, they'll create a new one, usually one that makes you look confused or lost. They might say you've joined a cult, had a breakdown, or gone through a strange phase. Anything that helps them feel that your awakening isn't real, that it's just another story. And here's the truth. You cannot stop this. You cannot control what others say about you. Trying to correct every misunderstanding will only pull you back into the same web of drama you've outgrown. So, the awakened response is silence. You let them talk. You let them invent. You let them project. Because what they're really talking about is themselves, their own fear of change, their own resistance to truth. What others think of you is none of your business. You are not the character in their story. You are the awareness watching it all unfold, calm, still, unbothered. The moment you understand this, something liberating happens. You stop needing to be seen correctly. You stop trying to manage other people's perceptions. You begin to rest in the quiet, knowing that truth doesn't need defending. And from that stillness, your presence begins to speak louder than any explanation ever could. They will try to pull you back into old patterns. This is one of the most subtle and emotionally challenging reactions you'll face. It often comes not from strangers, but from the people closest to you, your family, your oldest friends, those who knew you before you began to wake up. They remember the old version of you, the one who laughed at the same jokes, got angry about the same things, and participated in the same dramas. And now, suddenly, you're different. You no longer react the same way. You no longer fit neatly into the familiar script. So, what does the ego in them do? It tries to restore equilibrium by pulling you back into the story. They might tease you. Remember when you used to be fun? You've changed. You're not like you used to be. Or they might use guilt. You used to tell me everything. Why are you so distant now? It's not malice. It's fear. Your transformation unsettles them because it suggests that change is possible. And if change is possible for you, then change might also be possible or necessary for them. That realization is terrifying for the ego, which survives by clinging to familiarity, even if familiarity is painful. So they invite you back into the old rhythm. They tempt you to pick up the same emotional scripts, arguing about the same topics, reacting in the same predictable ways, defending the same old identity. But here's the quiet truth. Once you've awakened, you cannot go back. The costume no longer fits. The role feels heavy and false. You can love these people deeply. In fact, your love for them grows clearer, gentler, freer. But you no longer need to participate in the unconscious games that used to define your relationships. When they try to provoke you, you can simply notice it. When they attempt to pull you into an old argument, you can breathe and smile. You don't need to fight or defend. You don't need to convince them to change or understand you. You simply remain present, loving, and true to what you now see. And, over time, something interesting happens. Either they begin to soften, sensing that your calm isn't a threat, but an invitation, or they drift away, finding resonance with others still playing the same game. Both outcomes are perfect. Nothing is lost. Remember this: awakening doesn't mean separating yourself from others. It means no longer losing yourself within them. 5. They will feel uncomfortable in your presence. This is perhaps the most mysterious and the most profound of all the reactions. When you awaken, your presence itself becomes a quiet force. You don't need to preach or persuade. You don't even need to speak. Your stillness communicates something deeper than words. And for many people, that stillness feels like a mirror they don't want to look into. You're not doing anything wrong. You're not judging them. In fact, you might be radiating more kindness, more patience, more genuine attention than ever before. Yet, somehow, your energy seems to make them squirm. They'll fidget. They'll fill silences with chatter. They'll laugh too loudly. They'll say things like, "Why are you so quiet? Are you okay? You're being weird." What's happening isn't about you. It's about them. Your calm presence interrupts the constant noise in their minds. It creates a space where their own anxiety, their own restless thoughts suddenly become audible to them. And that is deeply uncomfortable. Your peace mirrors their chaos. Your stillness reflects their agitation. And rather than face that inner noise, the ego projects the discomfort outward. You're the problem. You're too serious. You're too distant. But here's the paradox. The very thing that makes them uncomfortable, your awakened presence, is precisely what their soul longs for. Your calm is an invitation. Your stillness says, without words, there is another way to live. The ego, of course, resists this invitation. It feels like death. To awaken means to dissolve the identity it has spent a lifetime defending. So it fights back. It avoids you. It criticizes you. It labels you as strange, arrogant, or cold. But none of that is personal. It's simply the ego's survival instinct, a desperate attempt to stay asleep. So, you don't take their discomfort as rejection. You don't shrink to make them comfortable. You remain quietly present, like a mountain untouched by the wind. Because over time, that presence does its work. It seeps through their defenses, wordlessly. It plants a seed. And maybe, one day, when the noise becomes too loud, they'll remember that moment with you, that strange, unsettling peace, and realize what it was pointing toward, the deeper understanding. All 5 of these reactions, the demands for explanation, the testing, the gossip, the attempts to pull you back, and the discomfort, are not about you. They are reflections of the other person's relationship with their own ego. When you awaken, you become a mirror, and what people see in that mirror is not you. It's themselves. Some will look into that mirror and feel inspired. They'll want to know what you found. They'll ask questions. They'll begin, in their own way, to wake up. Others will look and feel threatened. They'll react defensively, creating distance between you and them, not because they dislike you, but because they're not ready to see what you represent. And that's okay. Everyone awakens in their own time, in their own way. Your role is not to force awakening on anyone. Your role is simply to remain awake, to live in truth, quietly, compassionately, without needing anyone else to join you. How to stay balanced through it all. See clearly. Recognize that these reactions are not personal attacks, but signs of egoic resistance. When you see this, the need to defend yourself dissolves. Stay compassionate. You remember what it was like to be asleep. The anxiety, the defensiveness, the endless search for validation. That memory keeps your heart soft. Don't dim your light. Out of kindness, you may be tempted to shrink your presence to avoid discomfort, but the world doesn't need smaller light. It needs steady light. Trust the process. Awakening is not contagious through persuasion, but through presence. Some will reject you now, but return later, drawn by the quiet truth you embody. Keep your sense of humor. When you truly see the cosmic play for what it is, consciousness pretending to be separate individuals, egos debating with egos, how can you not smile? And here lies the ultimate irony. The irritation people feel around you isn't a problem. It's part of the awakening itself. Every ripple of consciousness disturbs the still waters of illusion. Some will ride those ripples toward their own freedom. Others will fight against them. But the ripples continue endlessly. So, let them react. Let them misunderstand. Let them test and resist. You simply remain as you are, present, aware, free. Move through life like wind through trees, like water around stone, like light through darkness, unforced, unbothered, alive. Because in the end, your greatest teaching is not in what you say, but in what you are, the silent radiance of being, the wordless reminder that the game, for all its noise and struggle, was only ever a dream. And, through you, perhaps a few others might begin to stir. You see, once the fog of illusion begins to lift, life itself takes on an entirely new texture. Everything becomes lighter, almost playful, as if existence has been waiting patiently for you to realize that it was never as serious as you thought. The great cosmic joke reveals itself. All the striving, all the proving, all the anxious attempts to be somebody were never required. You were never lacking. You were never incomplete. You were simply lost in the game of forgetting who you truly are. And when you see this, something beautiful happens. You begin to laugh. Not a mocking laugh, but a laugh of deep relief. The laughter of one who finally sees through the mask. The ego doesn't get the joke, of course. It can't. The ego is built on the assumption that the game is real. It needs seriousness to survive. Rules, hierarchies, victories, failures. When you start to laugh at it all, the ego feels threatened because laughter is liberation. Laughter breaks the spell. You begin to see that everything you once resisted was part of the same cosmic dance. The arguments, the heartbreaks, the ambitions, the fears. They were all movements of consciousness pretending to be separate, pretending to forget itself so that it could rediscover itself again. It's as if the universe were playing hide and seek with its own reflection, and for a brief, miraculous moment, you, the seeker, realize that the one hiding and the one searching were never two. The simplicity of being. When you awaken, you don't become superhuman. You don't gain special powers or secret knowledge. What happens is far simpler, far quieter. You return to being. Being is not something you do. It's what remains when all the doing stops. It's the silent awareness behind every experience, the spacious stillness that has always been here. The ego wants complexity. It wants spiritual systems, stages, hierarchies, achievements. But awakening isn't an achievement, it's a homecoming. It's remembering that you were never apart from life, never separate from existence. You are not a wave fighting the ocean. You are the ocean playing at being a wave. When you rest in this understanding, life becomes astonishingly simple. You no longer seek constant validation, no longer chase after meaning in the future, no longer interpret every event as a sign of success or failure. You live, you breathe, you notice, you allow. The mind still moves, thoughts still arise, the body still experiences pain, joy, fatigue, delight, but there's space now. There's a vast silence behind it all, and in that silence, everything happens effortlessly. The end of resistance. When you no longer fight what is, everything softens. Resistance, after all, was the root of your suffering. You thought peace would come when life matched your desires, but real peace comes when desire loses its tyranny. You thought freedom meant getting what you wanted, but true freedom is wanting what is. This doesn't mean passivity. It doesn't mean you stop caring. It means that your actions are no longer driven by fear or lack. You act from clarity instead of compulsion, from love instead of need. The awakened person isn't disengaged from the world. They are more present in it than ever before, because without the constant noise of self-concern, you can finally hear life itself speaking. A bird's song isn't background noise anymore. It's music. A stranger's smile isn't meaningless. It's connection. Even pain isn't punishment. It's sensation, pure and vivid, passing through the field of awareness like weather through the sky. Nothing is rejected, nothing is clung to, everything is allowed to be what it is. The silent teaching. Here's the irony. Once you awaken, you realize there's nothing to teach. Words can point, but they can't deliver the truth. Language can describe the moon, but it can't hand you its light. So the deepest teaching isn't in explanation, it's in presence. The awakened being teaches not by telling you what to believe, but by embodying what they know. When someone truly rests in being, their presence changes the air around them. You feel it before they speak. Their energy is still, unhurried, unreactive. In their company, your own mind begins to quiet, as if remembering something ancient. This is why the awakened ones have always spoken of transmission, not of knowledge, but of being. The light doesn't teach by instruction, it teaches by illumination. You don't need to preach, correct, or convert anyone. Simply being what you are, open, aware, alive, is enough. Your stillness ripples outward in ways you may never see. Someone sitting next to you on a bus may feel inexplicably calm. A friend may leave a conversation with you feeling lighter without knowing why. A stranger may catch your eye and, for a moment, forget their story. That is how consciousness spreads, quietly, invisibly, without effort. The paradox of awakening. The moment you try to hold on to awakening, it slips away. The moment you think, I am awakened, the ego has already returned, wearing spiritual clothes. That's why humility is the fragrance of true awareness. You know nothing. You see that even awakening was never yours. It was grace all along, life remembering itself through you. You stop chasing permanence. You stop clinging to insight. You let the river flow, because now you understand, even the forgetting, even the moments when you lose yourself again in thought or emotion, are part of the same perfection. The dance continues, the play goes on, and you, the one who knows and forgets, the one who wakes and dreams, are simply the stage upon which it all unfolds. The light that needs no audience. Here's the final secret. When you stop caring about being understood, your light becomes brighter. As long as you try to convince, persuade, or prove, you're still caught in the game. But when you simply live, quietly, joyfully, truthfully, your being speaks more powerfully than any sermon. You become like sunlight, not trying to shine, not asking for attention, just illuminating whatever it touches. And yes, some will turn away from that light because it hurts their eyes. But others, those who are ready, will open, will warm, will begin to glow themselves. Your only task is to remain open, to stay in love with what is, to keep returning again and again to the simplicity of being. The cosmic laughter. In the end, you realize that even the struggle to awaken was part of the joke. You were already what you sought. The seeker was the sought. The journey was the destination in disguise. So you laugh, not because everything is meaningless, but because everything is miraculous. You laugh at the ego's seriousness. You laugh at the cosmic theater of it all, the saints and the sinners, the kings and the beggars, all playing their parts in the same infinite dream. And that laughter, that soft, knowing laughter, is the sound of freedom. You walk through the world lighter now. You don't resist. You don't cling. You flow like water, move like wind, shine like light. Not because you're trying to be special, but because you've stopped pretending to be anything other than what you are. Pure awareness, presence itself. No longer a character lost in the play, but the stage upon which the play appears. And perhaps that is the greatest secret of all. You never had to wake up. You only had to remember that you were never asleep.